attack, then I am able to siphon valuables from murmur strongholds. They will never see this fish coming.
Recalibrate the console to recognize you, and your necromech will be with you in seconds. Excellent! Your necromech is on the way. I wager you're due for some fun.
Time and oxygen are running out. Like a fish back in water. But we're there. You have but 60 seconds of life support remaining. Has been permanently compromised! Extract!
One must make the best of things.
Greetings once more, child. Regrettably for myself, at least, this vein of the dark refractory has exhausted its gold. As delightful as it has been to watch you trade your mental faculties for the dregs of my once enviable treasury, it seems there is nothing of any more value for me to glean from that machine. Yes.
Oh, the enemy shall not find us wanting. You have your orders. I will not lie. This is a risky gambit. You are here to draw out Murmur and then grind them down. Fight them out there, so we need never again battle them in here. Trigger the alarms. Our foes have compromised the habitation systems. How predictable. Stand by for life support. Fish back in water, but we're there. Incoming! Use it well. They're expensive. Sending another capsule? These don't grow on trees, you know. Looks like you could use a bit of life support. Distracted by your attack, and I am able to siphon valuables from murmur strongholds. They will never see this fish coming. Looks like you could use a bit of life support.
Another job well executed.
A well-oiled machine is truly a thing of beauty. Eyes front, we begin. Excelsior! Capsule incoming! Use it well. They're expensive. a fish back in water. But we're there. Capsule! These don't grow on trees, you know. Looks like you could use a bit of life support. This fish just caught. You keep fighting, and I'll keep finding. Looks like you could use a bit of life support. another capsule! These don't grow on trees, you know.
Papa left some bad things behind. That book's one of them. But it's not you. Kill it!
Looks like you could use a bit of life support.
It's not dead. You have to kill the smell of it. Understand? Woke up a bad thing. But then you killed it. So, I guess you did okay.
I do not think the Murmur will miss this, do you? Another capsule? These don't grow on trees, you know. You have but 60 seconds of life support remaining. Another capsule? These don't grow on trees, you know.
Another job well executed.
Tick-tock. Time.
Samples over here, if you please.
Well, your attention, please. Do not stay away over long. Our enemy does not tire. And once more into the breach, what? So be it. Together again. Not lie. This is a risky gambit. You are here to draw out Murmur and then grind them down. Fight them out there, so we need never again battle them in here. Trigger the alarms. The Murmur aims to choke you out. Not today. Preparing a life support capsule. Like a fish back in water, but with air.
Additional firepower authorized. If the Murmur are capable of regret, make them feel it.
Life support approaching! could use a bit of life support. Tick-tock. Time and oxygen are running out. Sending another capsule! It's no grand treat, you know.
If I ever see that grimoire, I'm gonna bolt. You gotta understand, it's a predator.
They are so distracted by your attack that I am able to siphon valuables from Murmur strongholds. They will never see this fish coming.
And it's out! Let it out!
60 seconds! Looks like you could use a bit of life support.
It's not dead! You have to kill the smell of it! Understand?
You are out of options. Retreat to the sanctum.
I threw a new shell! Now you have to crack it again!
Get out now! Sending another capsule! It's no grand treat, you know.
It's running. Growing a new skin. If you're quick and ballsy, you can finish it. Maybe. Okay, now's your chance. Destroy the book! So, I guess he did.
But 60 seconds of life support remaining. Looks like you could use a bit of life support. I do not think the Murmur will wish this to you.
Another job well executed.
Sending another capsule? These don't grow on trees, you...
She remains as she was, Tenno. Attentive. Watching. Put me to work, Tenno. Drusus has his debts to pay, and I have mine. Very good, Tenno. Arcanes. The very name smacks of sorcery. Asking for trouble, in my view. There we are, then. Splendid. The debris of monstrousness. Let us learn from it. Yes, I'm sure we've all... to better times ahead.
Help me help you. Like 'em? Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I love this bit.
Morgoth, Master Entrati's experiments are under threat from the Murmur. Nay, rip from his teeth all that he has taken and teach him this. That woe shall be his sole reward. Prepare well, for we shall not return until the experiments are secured.
The sheets from off her. Go on, dear. Thank you, dear. Very kind. Why they bothered packing all this, I'll never know. Very well. I'll be here, waiting. Of course, I quite understand. Don't fret, dear. We'll find another way.
Shall we? Yes, there are bounties, if you have the interest. Good and faithful to know. Much has been hidden from us on Deimos. The old ruins beneath the surface must surely contain the deepest and darkest secrets. Find a way to get inside, and the Necroloid will guide you through. See what's happening down there. Tell me what he has been up to.
Be on the lookout for infested. They will likely come and investigate. Do not let them disrupt the process.
concoction and throw it against the large cloaca I have marked on the map.
Inside before it starts chewing! Oh wow, it's so toxic in here it'll burn your casing off! We need to do something or the vault won't open! The infested are real stinkers. Get them before they make things worse.
Organic material from the infested can help counteract the environment and keep us alive longer. They are well adapted to this.
Infested are coming! If we can make it through these, we'll make it to the ISO vault! Level's coming down! Now the infested have backed off! We can go to the vault! Just a little further! You're almost through the icky infested bits! The ruins await! Okay, Chip. Now you just need to beat a necromancer so you can explore the ruins in peace. Did I mention that part already? Here's the big guy. He sure ain't pleased to see you, Chip. And he's down. Never doubted you for a minute, Chip.
Ah, the Necromancer Guardian is here. Defend yourself, Tenno. The Guardian of the Vault approaches. You must defeat it, Tenno. The Necromech has ceased function. A most satisfactory outcome. The Entrati ruins are close. Keep pushing, and you will be there in no time.
Ah, yes, there are bound good and faithful Tenno. Much has been hidden from us on Deimos. The old ruins beneath the surface must surely contain the deepest and darkest secrets. Find a way to get inside, and the Necroloid will guide you through. See what's happening down there. Tell me what he has been up to.
The infestation is strong, but stupid. With the right materials, we can fool it into letting us enter.
That looks yummy for a monster door. Let's find some more.
Very unpleasant, but undoubtedly what we need. Just a little more. Excellent. Take what you have gathered and place it into the vessel.
Now we're cooking. Uh-oh. Something's coming. Don't let her grab the snacks!
Overzealous there, Tenno. You were not supposed to massacre it.
Okay, now grab the snack and throw it at the monster door! Yay! Let's go inside before it starts chewing!
Airborne impurities from the infested have rendered these tunnels highly toxic to non-infested. We cannot access the vaults until the toxicity level has been reduced. Some of the infested are adding to the toxicity level. Deal with them quickly.
You
organic samples to help stabilize yourself against the toxicity levels. The invested carry their own antidote of sorts. Nothing with the infested gone. We can now access the isolation box.
Just a little further! You're almost through the icky infested bits! The ruins await!
There is a necromech guarding the ruins. You will need to defeat it in order to roam the ruins. Ah, the necromech guardian is here. Defend yourself, Jenna! I confess I had my concerns, but that was expertly handled. The Guardian is completely disabled.
The big guy? He sure ain't pleased to see you, Chip. And he's down! Never doubted you for a minute, Chip. Here's the big guy. He sure ain't pleased to see you, Chip.
I confess I had my concerns, but that was expertly handled. The Guardian is completely disabled. Are you requiring something? Perhaps we can make a trade. I am pleased we were able to come to a mutually beneficial agreement. I am certain we will see you again. Ladies?
Yes? Use it wisely and carefully. willed it with conviction. So we return to our tasks.
Forgive me for my earlier hesitation in dealing with you directly. Marie has assured me that you are trustworthy, and so far you have proven to be so. I do hope I do not come to regret this. Father Leon Allard, at your service. How may I assist you? To think that Entrati hid all this from us for so long. A practiced liar's tongue, indeed. I am honored to assist Monsieur Lloyd in any way he will have me do so. He does not deserve what has befallen him. If all else, that knowledge held within. Enjoy.
Albrecht always adored pretending that he was above the rest of us, Orokin, and our wanton dissipation. Don't entertain yourself too much with this. During the Old War, we once more found a need in the Orokin Empire to distinguish between foot soldiers and those who could follow instructions to any manner of consistency. I wonder, which are you? Let us find out. Yes. Finally.
Careful.
Sampled news of the family, Tenno? I miss them all so very. We truly have accumulated a bewildering quantity of stuff. I'll just put this all back there. Remain of stalwart mind, Tenno. Yes, I'm sure we... I wait upon your pleasure.
Select destination. If lost on the plains outside Cetus, you may derive sustenance from minerals.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl. An envious little girl who watched as the whole world had more than she did. All the nice things. Once upon a time, there was a little girl. A frightened little girl. Once upon a time, there was a little girl. A sad little girl who watched as the world went wrong. Watched as people fought, as people lied. Once upon a time, there was a little girl. A joyful little girl whose life was filled with meaning and happiness. She filled her world with dolls on string. Once upon a time, there was a little girl.
I wanted nothing but the ease of oblivion at first. I floated ignorant in baths of Nepenthe, a second gestation. Unseeing, unspeaking. Only rarely did my brain flicker errant light across the cave paintings still smeared on the interior of my skull. At sensation's edge, I knew a vague silhouette of Lloyd crooning motherly across the watery distances. The poetry my tongue was too blackened to recite. I employed a variety of cavia in an attempt to unmake the adversary. The principle was straightforward enough, though in hindsight I abhor my naivete. My humanity had been unscrolled by the caustic void, and now smirked back at me across the divide, privy to all my unfettered malice and pettiness. In answer, I resolved to hurl into the void minds that were not human. Let it parody them. The proximity of the bestial would force a humbling devolution. Or so I thought.
Things have never been this bad. The currents are strengthening in that rank cesspool overboard. Nathaniel has consolidated his power on Venus, winning Fraud Beck's favor. All eyes are turning towards their new darling. And the currents would drag me down. I am underestimated. I am unseen. I must turn that to my advantage.
seek advantage, and advantage appears. I'd long thought that old fool Rega's dead, but here he is, rich and gullible as ever, with an offer of shared wealth. Says he has tech like I've never seen, old war tech. And he wants an investor. Oh, I'll invest all right. This is about more than investment. Riga surprises me. How a man of his limited intellect can buy such wonders is... But forget that. What he has is exceptionally viable. Where did he find this technology? It stinks of Tau. But the advantages to be had in the exploitation of it. The things I could create. The profits I could accrue. The board will never dare underestimate me again. Regis's price was high, but I dangled the board's most enticing intellectual property, Syscon, to seal the deal. Then I placed a contract loaded with escape clauses and loopholes in that slack idiot's fingers. And he signed. The fool signed without even reading it. Any partner that thick is a liability. A liability soon to be nullified. Regis has changed. Or perhaps he is not such a fool. And today I saw beneath the mask. He is no longer so agreeable. Rather, he came to our meeting with a raft of his own radical proposals. An entire shift in direction. And then, as I made to leave, he smiled. He smiled, and just for a second, I don't think his face was human at all. This is all wrong. I'm tearing up the contract. I have a terrible feeling that if I do not escape this partnership immediately, I never will. Not Regis. It never was Regis. It revealed its true face to me, and by the void, I've entered into a partnership with sentience. The world builders, the world killers, our enemy. under all. This contract is worthless. Instead, they demand submission. CT, assemble the disciples, arm the condors. Those oversized crustaceans have no idea who they're dealing with. That did not go as planned. Thousands against one. That massive grotesque tore through my forces like a shark through a shoal. We never inflicted so much as a scratch. Now it perches outside my home. The message is clear. I am to make amalgams. And if I cross them, the Ropalu list makes an ash cloud of this city. If my rivals find out, I'll be executed for treason. What choice do I have but to comply? Disciples, good news. The Amalgam program has entered into a fruitful partnership. Pursuant to our agreement, their identities will be kept confidential, and a strict no-fly zone shall be instated around their craft. In time, the nature of our project will be made known. Until then, know that we work for a brighter Corpus future. Life is profit.
Every living thing longs to be whole. Every living thing yearns to defy death. If from death you returned, yet the part you loved best did not, what then?
My name is Sigor Savar, morphology specialist with Nef Anyo's Venusian terraforming expedition. I was tasked with decoding the Orican gene record of what had once been a preserve, and reviving select specimens for study. This is an account of my encounter with lifeform VK7, a larger-than-average Kavat specimen possessed of atypical behavioral characteristics. Specimen VK7, unlike the others, did not come from a gene record. She was found, frozen, in a sealed closet close to the environmental control station. Her unassuming tomb for millennia. Here, then, was an intact example of Orican-era fauna. I was Corpus, a scientist second and a businessman first. VK7. An Orican strain Kavat of unusual size and patterning. Well, I could think of several members of the nobility who would pay a fortune for such a thing. Enough to buy a handsome slice of any planetoid of my choosing. corpse laying on a dissection rack, ready for a full surgical examination. Then, like any animal dreaming, the paw twitched. I glanced at the vital scanner, expecting to see some anomalous electrical reaction taking place, contracting ancient muscles, but no. What I saw there was a beating heart. I did not revive specimen VK7. Before my eyes, she willed herself back to life. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Some speak of feeling a connection to something greater than themselves, to which I laughed, as any right-thinking corpus would. Life is profit, profit is life. But in that moment, watching that animal claw her way out of death's dark pit, though I did not admit it to myself, something in me was forever changed. I found her sharp gaze unsettling. The way she would watch my every move from her cage unnerved me. When a visitor came, I would watch VK7 studying their habits. In time, she came to anticipate regular arrivals, having memorized their schedules. On the morning of my 4th shift, I entered my laboratory to find her cage door open and VK7 gone. One consequence of breathing life back into a world is unintentionally resurrecting life forms and viruses one finds less desirable. The infestation is both of those things. Reports returned of some hive sites found destroyed, and then of a large beast found at others. An animal intelligent enough to learn and react to corpus behaviors and patterns. Some claimed it had learned to measure ammunition expenditure to better attack when a target was most vulnerable. Needless to say, almost none who attacked the beast survived. This had to be specimen VK7. I left to join with a flamer team already deployed to a nearby hive. Both team and hive were dead when I arrived, killed by tooth and claw. Fearing for my life, I made to leave, and was apprehended by the sight of a low figure blocking my egress. Specimen VK7. She prowled forward from the shadow of a shattered, snow-blown hive, her paw prints red with blood. I made to open a comm channel to request assistance. VK7 growled low, and I swear this to be true, slowly shook her head. I did not make that call. She padded closer, and I saw the wound on her side. She turned that side toward me, an act of trust, and a request for aid. I unpacked my field kit and carefully went to work. did not report my experience with Specimen VK7. I could not admit why then. But now I can tell you. I felt it would have violated a trust. There I was, a morphology specialist, sworn to the Corpus Empire, and yet, for reasons entirely illogical, I placed loyalty to a wild animal above my life oath, and every doctrine that values self-interest above charity. But keep that confidence I did. I think that is why VK7 brought me the hand. My experience with Specimen VK7. I could not admit why then, but now I can tell you. I felt it would have violated a trust. There I was, a morphology specialist, sworn to the Corpus Empire, and yet, for reasons entirely illogical, I placed loyalty to a wild animal above my life oath, and every doctrine that values self-interest above charity. But keep that confidence I did. I think that is why VK7 brought me the hand.
Please stay. Don't put up the flame and run away. In this heartbreak, I'll be here fighting for you with or without you. Wide awake with all the things I know that I should say. I thought I could take more than I really can with
Something's out there, dreamers. Nora can feel it, pulling at her waters like a... The day it stepped...
Somehow, she had managed to infiltrate the facility, bypass 2 different security gates, and had gained entry to my laboratory without raising an alarm or my awareness. She held in her jaws a severed hand. Blackened, fossilized, gently, she laid it before me and, with a meaningful glance, turned, padded away into the shadows, and was gone. I analyzed the hand, but I learned that night, alone in my laboratory. would become an obsession to focus the remainder of my life.
This obsession is turned into the great despair. I keep thinking I see you, but there's nobody there. You say love is time, but all your love isn't fair. So pull me out, great despair. Oh, we watch the world burn down around us, but we're still standing here with the flicker of hope on the darkest of days. It's like the end is this obsession is turned into the great despair. I keep thinking I see you. This obsession is turned into the great despair. Now all I see is you. You're everywhere. Facing love is time, and now it's time we declare goodbye to the great despair.
The hand was of Orican construction. Emphasis on that last word. Whoever the original possessor had been, they were born of no mother. In the past, I had been privileged to read some of Alad V's treatises on Warframes, and there could be no mistake. What I held was the hand of one of those very creatures. And one Aniocorp had no record of. Therefore, my first task was to extract a working blueprint, or as near as possible, from the sampled cellular makeup. One word recurred again and again. The word that had once been her name. Cora. Cora. I was convinced. Specimen VK7 wanted Cora resurrected. Why else bring the hand to me? Why trust me with this sole remaining piece of a lost Orican warrior? The evidence of such rich, nuanced cognition on the part of an animal. That was the real treasure here. The value of which, I knew, would be lost on my superiors. VK7 would be hunted down and, at best, captured for testing. At worst, well. Therefore, I told them none of this. To no avail. Specimen VK7 was tracked to a box canyon 4.3 clicks south-southwest of the atmosphere processing station. The horror of the hives, as she had come to be known, had been deemed unworthy of study, and was to be destroyed in her lair. I positioned myself at the entrance to her cave home and waited. To doom myself in the name of some imagined ideal. My own voice screamed in my head. What are you doing? What are you doing? Once, not so long before, I was a man who would have sold this animal for profit. Now I stood in the freezing cold, surrendering all I had for... some would say nothing. I would say... something greater than myself. They came, picking their way through the snow, heads bowed, pushing against a numbing, slashing wind that froze skin and carried my voice to them. I begged them to stop, pleading VK7's case with a bomb in my hand. It went about as well as you'd expect. They did not listen. Numbsol is employed, traditionally, as an animal tranquilizer, but converts to an aerosol easily enough. The canister rolled from my fingers and erupted in a geyser of brown-green gas, thrown towards the hunters by that roaring wind, bathing them. I am a better scientist than saboteur. Their respirators dealt with the Numbsol as handily as every other contaminant, and I was promptly arrested. But VK7 did escape. I achieved that much. The atmosphere processor wasn't made for imprisonment or interrogations, but the lack of facilities did not prevent them performing both. Bound and beaten in maintenance closet A5, I told them everything. Doomed me. Zil, the oxygen tech from Reclamation 3, had a previous career in psychological operations for some branch of the military. Therefore, he had been selected to administer to me, to interview me and, ultimately, to execute me. Barrel pressed to my forehead, Zil said he would prefer it if I did not look at him. Obliging as ever, I closed my eyes. There was a sharp crack, then nothing more. I opened my eyes. Zil lay dead at my feet, limp, throat clasped in VK7's jaws. I was corpus no longer. Remaining on Venus would be death for both of us. We had to escape. Together we made for an automated cargo relay, one that would ferry us anonymously to the hold of a Solaris rail tractor in geosynchronous orbit and away from Venus. How well she guided me, circumnavigating patrols and security cameras. But, inevitably, my former comrades calculated our likely destination and closed in rapidly. Plasma blasts lanced the air from both sides of the hangar. I bundled myself into the nearest open conveyor, bound for orbit. A waste of time, I knew. We had reached our means of escape, but had no hope of achieving it. Troopers and mowers closed in a classic pincer movement. Sparks and near misses flashed hot against my face. In moments, our conveyance would be destroyed, and us along with it. My only thought was heartbreak for how badly I had failed her. In that final moment, VK7 did something that will stay with me for the rest of my days. With one of her meaningful glances, last we would ever share, she reared up and activated the conveyor. My pod's door slammed shut, and outside my viewport, she leapt toward the enemy. Before I could select the release and free myself, the mag rails activated, and I was hauled out of the complex, skyward, and into orbit. Saved, leaving her behind. That was, well, many years ago now. I have spent my life attempting to locate Cora's remains. Contacts inform me she was found, fused but intact, within the Orican terraforming complex itself, and shipped off-world via a notorious Solaris rail agent, who subsequently vanished. I now believe, firmly, that her remains are to be found on the Eidolon Plains. I go there now, entrusting these encrypted logs to my old friend, Konzu, for safekeeping. There I shall put a lifetime of searching to rest. I have never doubted that VK7 survived Venus. And to this day, I still believe that before I leave this life forever, I shall one day look up from my writings to find a familiar figure standing in my doorway, alongside her Kavat. I am Sigor Savar, a better man, as it turns out, than a scientist.
In the dying days of the Orikin, with forums and promenades still blood-wet from Tenno betrayal, a colossal sentient descended upon ancient Ur, falling from distant stars to deliver upon Orikin a terrible and final ruin. Tower upon tower fell to its weapons, but one withstood, the Tower of the Unum. The Tenno scattered, but one remained, Gara. She and the Unum, inseparable. The Unum, lodestone of our people, and subject of 100 stories herself. The sentient was a deformed creature, twisted and massive, sent from some dark fold of distant space. A warped thing wounded by daylight. By night it was a terror, felling tower after tower, citadel after citadel. But by day it hid, blinded and pained. It was during the day that Gara roamed, yearning to strike it from creation while it cowered, weakened and blind, to safeguard her beloved Unum. But never could Gara find it. By night, the sentient was abroad, its titanic mass casting a terrible shadow across the land, the mass of it railing against the walls of the tower, yet kept at bay by the exertion of the Unum's colossal will and the sacrifice of her faithful. But such exertions could not be maintained forever. Gara yearned to strike out, to lash and tear at the monstrosity that threatened her love, but the Unum forbade it. At night, the sentient was at the height of its power, and Gara's light would make her the most tempting of targets to a creature of such profound darkness. Gara's death would be certain. No, a different strategy was required.
The sentient prowled and pressed and failed, never risking too much, for the sentient could not reproduce. What it lost forever. It had killed many cities before, felled many towers, but this little one prevailed. Why, it pondered in many voices, was that? The Unum knew she could not defend forever, nor could her faithful throw their bodies against the sentient in perpetuity. So she gave her followers some of her blood, her refined temple kuva, and they in turn gave it to the animals of the land. And the animals became an extension of her, and she became an extension of them. And the animals roamed and searched, and they found where the sentient chose to hide itself. The sentient sensed this subterfuge, and capturing one of the Unum's animals, opened it up for examination. And what little of the Unum that was present there lit the sentient's mind like the dark star from which it had fallen. The sentient, you see, could not procreate, but in the temple kuva, it tasted healing, completeness, a future. It devoured each and every last Unum animal, but it was not enough. The sentient turned its hundreds of eyes toward the tower with new understanding. It would not destroy the tower. It would become the tower. It would kill the Unum, take her place, and one with that healing palace give birth to a race of itself. Gara and Unum knew where the sentient was. The sentient knew the tower was the future of its race. The sentient threw itself at the tower, no longer cautious, taking great losses and knowing the prize was worthy of it. Should it succeed, all losses would be replaced 1,000-fold. This is when, across the plains, the great pylons ignited for the first time. Sheets of energy sprung up between them, powered by the will of the Unum at their epicenter, trapping the monstrosity within. Loyal Gara, unwilling to heed inaction any longer, broke from the side of the Unum and flew out at night, her eyes on the sentient mind. The sentient, torn between its most coveted prize and the mortal threat, broke from the tower and turned back on itself to defend itself from noble Gara. But Gara's eyes were not for the sentient, but for the glittering man-sized device resting just beyond the gates. It had not been there before, but it was there now. It swatted Gara from the sky, drew it to herself, meaning to end her life there and then. The battle was terrible. Gara sustained injuries she would not survive. But in her final moments, brave Gara seized upon the device her beloved Unum had crafted, seized it to her breast, and allowed the sentient to draw her in one final time. Toward its body, toward its core, toward the seat of its intelligence. From within, the sentient unfurled myriad feelers, probes, tendrils, viciously toothed and made for killing. They swept toward Gara violently, and the glass warrior made no defense. Her defense was her final attack. The device detonated, and the Unum cried out as night lit as day. The battle, the terror, was ended. The tower wall shook. The sentient's body shuddered, racked by a cacophonous energy. Forests fell as piece after piece, giant body after giant body, crashed to the plains and marshes and flatlands. Animals fled in spreading waves from pounding sky-high walls of dust, angered and whipped to fury by the death of a god. The last of Gara's energy arced from body to body, machine to machine, piece to piece, a horizon-wide applause of light, beautiful and terrible. And then, silence. All was still. The Onum's adherents wandered through the haze, calling for one another, lost in a miasma. Husbands seizing onto wives, children onto parents. It was over. Gara was never seen again. The sentients then became as they are now, senseless, wandering, yearning for a unity they sense more than they remember. And the Onum? The Onum survived, alone, for centuries. Until today, when you stand here reading this. This is Onko, Cetus Archivist, with my translation of the Gara legend. In the age after the fall of the Orokin, the grand clade families of the Ostrons were cast wide across the solar system, roaming and homeless in their great floating markets. In this time, two young people were in love. The woman, Friha, and the man, Mirza. Friha was from the Yingbin Yai clade, meaning great bond, a very old and wealthy compact of bonded families. Mirza, however, had no clade. His family having been shattered by the Grineer many years before. He was Cetus, meaning landless, cladeless. A body turned to dust, turned to motes, on a careless wind. Ephria belonged to families within families. Mirza was alone. But to Ephria, Mirza was a poet who had eyes to see the beauty of things and ears to hear the softly whispered language of the universe. I know a place, he said, where I may be homeless no more. I have heard a voice, and it leads me there. Come with me. But Ephriha's father was a man made foolish by his wealth, and vociferously disapproved of their love. Mirza was cast adrift from the floating market that was home to his one true love. Ephria and Mirza ran away together, as lovers do, and were never heard from again. Rent by grief, her family thought her dead. Her father passed away, clutching her cameo, at peace, thinking he would see her soon, in some moonlit afterlife. Decades later, ships entering ancient Earth's orbit were hailed from the planet's poisoned surface by an old woman's voice, gentle and knowing. Traders would call for her, greet her, offer the latest news on their families and lives, but never did they learn anything of this woman, save that she had a husband and they were, somehow, happy living on the toxic skin of that hostile world. The old woman would always ask those travelers of news of the Yingbin Dunyai clade. Yingbin Dunyai junkers came searching for a sign of their missing daughter. The frail voice of their long-lost child reached out to them, and there was much joy. "You will find us," her message said, "by the light of our love." Freya bade them make their home around a magnificent Orokin ruin, promising them that it would be a source of prosperity for generations to come. The Yingbindunyi arrived in their vast floating market. There, by a ragged coastline, winked a point of light. "Follow the brightness of the love between Mirza and I," said the message, "and be safe from all harm." The wrathful Grineer took umbrage at this, and sought to block their passage. But upon approaching that ancient Orokin tower, found their transmissions silenced, their engines turned cold, and their weapons reduced to lumps of dead iron. She was a being of the day, her husband a spirit of the night. Freya was a woman of the land, Mirza a man of the sea. Mirza understood the crushing weight of time in which air existed. In return, air gifted pieces of its ancient self to Mirza, old things shaped to near shapelessness by 1,000 years beneath the waves. Mirza was a man dedicated to finding the sacred in the forgotten, the neglected, and took wisdom from them. After many decades, Mirza had a small collection of such gifts, such that they could be held in two cupped hands. But in them he understood the lifespan of a world, and so he had struck an accord with the creatures of the sea. For her part, in her times alone, Elfriha came to know the birds and animals of the plains, and likewise struck an accord with them. Even the tortured Eidolons, creatures of this world and the next, left them in peace, and made the lands around the tower safe for the Ostrons. After many decades, Mirsar had a small collection of such gifts, such that they could be held in two cupped hands. But in them he understood the lifespan of a world, and so he had struck an accord with the creatures of the sea. At the center of this place was the tower, and within the tower was the Unum, the voice, the force that had called Mirza and Elfriha there so many years ago for this exact purpose. But the Unum is a being for another time, and another story. The Ostrons named their village Carifomil, family and prosperity. Elfriha was overjoyed to see her clade again, but Mirza would not enter Carifomil, for he had no family save Elfriha. Elfriha was drawn to her clade, and Mirza felt no resentment. She would one day return to them. Mirza had known it would be so. Mirza took the things the sea had gifted him over his long life and took to his boat and sailed out across his midnight ocean. He returned those gifts to the deep, and himself to them too. But this was no death into which Mirza stepped, for a world is made of cycles upon cycles. Mirza stepped into his midnight ocean, falling down into it. And the deeper he sank, the larger he became. This is how the oceans of came to be the home of the 1,000-year fish, legendary, vast, reclusive, the rare sight of which changes men. One of the great ancient spirits of The spirits of the land felt Elfriha's sadness, mad with grief for the loss of their friend to the spirits of the sea. The accord broke down, the animals and eidolons returning once more to wildness. And so the people of the Clade, Yingbin Dunyai, rebuilt the great Oricon wall that had, in centuries gone by, ringed their gleaming tower, and never again ventured out at night. The villagers decided as one that their home would no longer be known as Carifamil, family and prosperity. From that day forward, it would be known as Cetus, landless, of no one clade, home to any who are blown as dust on the wind. Elfriha lived there the rest of her days, and for the remainder of her nights, she held vigil atop the walls of Cetus, looking to the sea, and, some say, occasionally catching sight of a great fish, like an island in a midnight ocean, looking back at her with love.
Put to the test. Now, I am holding it and showing it to you, sir.
It is said that Mirza continued to watch over the deep, as he had always done, and Elfriha the land. Often she would stand by her husband's sea, speaking in the language only those bound at the soul can know. When the day came and Elfriha passed from the world, her family buried her on the land. A great fish watched from the sea and kept vigil over her for 10 days and nights. When it sank beneath the waves, it was never seen again. Some say Mirza, the 1,000-year fish, waits to this day for their story to be retold, relived, that he and Elfriha, his great love, may one day be reunited again. This is Onko, Cetus' archivist, with my translation of the tale of the wife of the earth and the husband of the sea.